Beauties and Benders podcast, season 2, episode 36. Time for recovery with Maddie and Smitty, brought to you on the Inside the Rink podcast network. InsideTheRink.com is your one-stop shop for all your NHL and ECHL news, insight, and analysis. Follow on Twitter at inside_the_rink and download the Inside the Rink app to play our podcast on our podcast page. And you can leave it running in the background without actually staying on the app. And subscribe to Inside the Rink's YouTube page to watch our episodes. Smitty will tell you how you can sign up for ESPN Plus.
Yeah, you can sign up for ESPN Plus by going to the Inside the Rink website. Go to insidetherink.com/ESPN and sign up today. I have ESPN Plus, and I love all the Major League Baseball, soccer, college sports, UFC, and much, much more. So sign up for ESPN Plus at insidetherink.com/ESPN.
Hey, with the pitch clock, much better take the Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Although half your night.
Although it bit the Red Sox in the ass the other night. Kenley Jansen got a couple of violations and blew his second save in a row. So Red Sox are back to playing badly.
Yes.
And they're 8-1-1 in series, but they've been swept like 3 times. 8-2-1 in series, been swept 3 times. I don't know. Somehow they're still, winning record, but last in the division. So good for them.
They're as mediocre as can be.
Absolutely.
All right, so the Bruins, we're back after a small hiatus to recover,
Yep.
our wounds, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting happenings in the media recap with Sweeney and Neely and such. And I'll tell you, Cam Neely was some kind of pissed off looking in that whole situation.
He was. That's his general vibe. Unless they win, he looks angry. He looks pissed off. He looks like he wants to be out there checking someone through the glass, which is, his personality. He was a professional athlete. He's ultra competitive. It led him to be a Hall of Fame player. He is not a Hall of Fame front office executive by some of the blunders that he's made. Mitchell. Whatever the guy's last name, Mitchell Miller. Is it Mitchell Miller?
Mitchell Miller, yeah. Mitchell Miller.
That we believe was Neely's call, among other things. So, it would be nice to see him kind of figure things out in a front office role. But he's a really competitive guy, and he looked pissed off that the team lost, as we are, and as all the fans are, around Bruins Nation.
Now, when they were sort of watching these games, do you think that they get together with the coaching staff at all, Sweeney, Neely? Like when you make those changes they made going into Game 5, do you think, does Sweeney and Neely show up at the rink and like, what the hell is this? I mean, do they talk about it much? Do they know this, or is this something we can say? Whoa, what's going on here?
I don't think they get that in depth during the series. They may talk to him before a series starts about maybe a pre-scout or something along those lines. They meet with the scouting staff and so forth, and they'll talk about the other team and that stuff. But I think game to game within a series, they're not involved in any of the decision making as far as who plays, who comes back into the lineup, that kind of thing, unless it's medically involved and they get involved with that a little bit. But I think the game-to-game stuff, I don't believe they have any kind of impact on. So, that really falls to the coaching staff and goalie Bob and those kind of guys.
I really wonder what Neely's thinking, what the problem was, and I wonder what he thinks of the job Montgomery did in this series, and I wonder if he is, how upset he is, or if he puts any of the blame on that, because I feel like they probably think, Neely and Sweeney, that they did everything they could to put a roster together. And this was you could arguably say, the most talented roster they've had in however many years.
Yeah, the front office did everything right as far as I'm concerned. People have be on Twitter and they're still coming for Sweeney for some reason, like because they didn't succeed, and it's his fault somehow. He put the pieces together. He gave them every opportunity to win with the guys that he brought in. Mortgaged the future for it, and brought in the right type of guys. The guys that he brought in generally had, pretty good playoffs. I mean, Hathaway was more of a fourth line, kind of a smaller piece, but Bertuzzi had an excellent playoff. Orlov, it wasn't great in his own end, but no defenseman really on the Bruins in the Florida series was good in his own end, with the exception maybe of Brandon Kylo. And so you can't really put that on Sweeney and Neely. The guys that he brought in played pretty well. I mean, Orlov had produced offensively. So it's hard for me to blame those guys when they gave that group every opportunity, every piece that they possibly could to compete.
All right, now we have the aftermath, and that leads us into 7 Chirp, sponsored by Lobster Brewing, Lobster Brewing and Tasting Room in downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island, specializing in small batch ales and lagers, open 7 days a week. Use the coupon code SPORTS to get 10% off your online order. Go to lobsterbrewing.com, follow them at Lobster Brewing for new beers and events on social media. And chirp number 1, Don Sweeney says the roster will be different. Back in 2019-20, after that season, team president Cam Neely said that they would have to take a hard look at the roster, but didn't really make any major moves. How drastic this time will the roster change?
I think they have to do some pretty significant moves in order to get under the cap and get the guys signed that they need to get signed. So there'll be some guys gone. There'll be some trades. I think most of the free agents, they're just going to let walk. The restricted guys, I think you're looking at them re-signing Frederick. I think they'll re-sign Swayman. As for unrestricted guys, I think they'd like to keep Orlov. They'd like to keep Bertuzzi. They'd like to keep Hathaway, but I believe Sweeney said in one of the season-ending pressers that they're probably only going to be able to keep one of those guys. I think you're going to be looking at possibly them trading a goalie. Olmark could be out. I think for cap purposes, and his value will never be higher. So I think he could possibly be a cap casualty, and you might be able to get a decent return for him. I think you could see Grzelcyk gone. Certainly Riley would be a candidate to go. I think Forbort's a candidate to go. Clifton will walk in free agency. So the defense is going to look very different, I think, next year. And then trying to piece together the forward lines when you're not quite sure yet if Krejci and Bergeron are back. So there's the team in general is going to look very, very different than it did at the end of this year.
How much does it hurt the Bruins if Bergeron takes forever again to make a decision? I mean, you have to believe he can't take as long as he did before.
I think, it would hurt them because they need to fill that spot. So I would look for them or for him to try to get a decision made by the time the draft rolls around. If not, before that, certainly to help the Bruins with the plans for next season. But I would expect that they would be kind of planning for him to be gone and trying to move in that direction. Just with some of the tea leaves that you've seen at the end of the season and so forth. So I think they're probably planning for him and Krejci to be gone and moving forward without them. But we'll see how that all shakes out.
All right, chart number 2, Bergeron's big game legacy. He's 3-8 game 7s. He told Monty he was playing game 5 no matter what. Did he, in fact, did his power, the power and control that he had in that situation, did it, in fact, hurt the team?
I mean, in hindsight, you have to say yes, don't you? I mean, yeah. He was 0-3 when he came back in the lineup. He was a minus player. He just wasn't himself. So I think you have to say that it hurt the team, especially after they had won a couple of games in Florida. So I guess it's hindsight, but yeah, looking back, I would say that they probably would have been better off if he had sat out maybe a game or two more and tried to get a little more healthy.
I don't want to say I'm Nostradamus, but I did bring it up in the podcast that could Monty make the decision that needed to be made. It just seemed like he was really deferring to the leadership group a lot. And people were dismissing and saying, no, behind the scenes, he's coaching. And I'm sure he was. But I had a little bit of a concern in the back of my head that Monty would be able to make a really hard decision, like really be able to come up with some sort of adjustment that needed to be made, whatever. And I really believe that this is where it really, it sort of reared its ugly head. And I don't think he did. And he even admitted it in the postseason press conference, like that he would make this, like he didn't, he regretted, switching the lines.
Yeah.
He regretted some of the goalie stuff and blaming Bob Essenza and all the things that people called him out for.
Yeah.
And I just, at the end of the day, it was a small concern of mine, and it probably should have been a bigger one because I think it actually happened. I think it really hurt the team, and it hurt the outcome because he at the end of the day, he couldn't say to Bergeron, look, one more game. We're up 3-1. We're coming home. We just won 2 road games. Like we run them pretty handily. Like we played well. Like, okay, like, you know what? Give me one more game. And let's just see if we can wrap this up with the same group, and then we'll go after it in Game 6. And Bergeron, pushed his way just like he did with Montreal, and playing the last game of the year. And I think that Montgomery could have put his foot down and said, Bergie, look, there's a bigger picture here, and I really think it was really an egregious error. I do.
Yeah,
it's the one blemish, like in Patrice Bergeron's entire career. I can't think of another instance where anybody could say really anything negative about the guy. But this is his last go of it, his last 3 games were some of his worst of his career.
Right.
And these decisions to play last regular season game and in Game 5, 6, and 7, that's sort of a stain.
Well, I'll say this as far as that goes. It's not up to him. It can't be up to Bergeron. He's played through a punctured lung in the playoffs. He's played through cracked ribs in the playoffs. He's played through broken noses in the playoffs. If you leave it up to the player, they will play. They will play. They're competitive. That's why they're at the highest levels in the NHL. Right. If you say to Bergeron, are you ready? He'll say yes. It's like a pitcher, out there in the 8th inning. He's like, give me the damn ball. I want to keep the ball. Don't take me out of the game.
Right. It's Grady Little, Pedro Martinez.
I mean, any athlete worth his salt is going to be like, I want in. I want to play. I don't want to watch. That's on the coach. That's not on Bergeron. That's on the coach. The coach has to say, look, I'm putting my foot down. You're going to rest one more game. And then you'll get, if we win it, you'll get extra time to rest and we'll be ready for the next series, the next round. So that's on Montgomery. I don't put that on Bergeron because any athlete worth anything is going to want to be in the lineup.
Sure. True. And I think that, again, I had those concerns, and I mean, they weren't huge ones, but man, I thought that at the end of the day, Montgomery would coach the team and do what was best for the team, and he just didn't take the type of control he should have. Right?
And this is a great segue into chirp number 3.
It is. Jim Montgomery was accountable and mentioned what he would do differently in the postseason press conference. I feel like my question of whether he can make the decisions needed in the playoffs was answered, and that's a no.
Absolutely true. That's all true. He was accountable, which was nice, and I think he will learn from it. I think his biggest problem with Montgomery this year, he was great in the regular season, and everything's lollipops and sunshine, and everybody's happy and singing Kumbaya, and everything's great. And everything's going really well. He did not have enough head coaching experience and playoff coaching experience when it got down to times that really mattered. And that's when you saw the mistakes. When the pressure was on in the playoffs, he didn't have the experience to be like, look, now's the time I need to make this goalie change. Now is the time where I have to be a little more firm with my leadership group and say, look, things are going well right now. We're going to go with the group that got us here. You need to rest another game, or changing the lines all around. He kind of panicked there a little bit. I think from inexperience. And we've talked about Cassidy and so forth, and Cassidy would not have been the right coach for this team. We've said that ahead of time already.
Right.
But he had more experience, so I think he would have been a little more kind of level-headed there in some of those situations. He probably would have pulled Allmark in some of those games. He probably would not have gone into such a drastic line changes for Game 5. Mm-hmm. So it's just a lack of experience there that I think hurt Montgomery. And hopefully, and it seems like he'll learn from it and be better, the next go round. Unfortunately, the next go round is not going to be with those same guys and this same team. So his inexperience there cost them with a really, really good squad. It cost them, the potential to win the cup.
Yeah, and it just has to be really frustrating for Don Sweeney and Cam Neely because, I mean, this was the last kick of the can. We've heard this 4 or 5 seasons in a row, like, okay, one last go, and 19 was such a disappointment, and then you have it right there. I mean, you have it right there. You have the roster, you have the records-breaking season. You think you have the right coach, you have the right mindset, everybody's ready to go, and then the lack of experience, like you said. I don't think they make the record with Cassidy, but I really believe they win that series with Cassidy. I really believe that. Now, during the season, they probably all would have, asked to be traded.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing is like, he wouldn't have got them to where they were. And they wouldn't have had the same team. Like some of those guys probably wouldn't have come back. Some of those guys would have been traded. So it would have been a different team if Cassidy was there. But like you said, the experience and the fortitude that he has, like he would have been able to make some of those more difficult decisions, I think, that would have helped him win that series.
And it wasn't, from what I could gather, there wasn't a ton of experience in the assistant coaches either. I mean, Sacco was there, and we've said it all along, like that guy has pictures of someone. I don't know what it is. He's been hanging on. But, Chris Kelly and, they didn't have a ton of, they didn't have that Rick Bonus, they didn't have, that old guy.
Yeah.
Just there to help, that old guy with tons.
Yeah, like a Tom McVie type, like a veteran assistant that had the experience that could say, "Listen, you're going a little overboard here. Like, let's settle down a little bit. Let's maintain, some poise here, and we'll be fine and so forth." Yeah, they didn't have that kind of steadying guy. I don't think that could have kind of eased it out. And prevented Montgomery from making some of those mistakes.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see with this coaching staff, there will be a casualty or two, I'm sure. There has to be. So I would imagine that they might try to find some more experience behind the bench in that fashion. So
that's a possibility for sure. That's a possibility.
All right. Chirp 4, does Florida's success help the feeling any?
No.
No, it doesn't. Actually, it makes it worse.
Yeah, the people saying this, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, how does it not make it worse? Like, if they win the cup, you had them 3-1 by the balls, just twice in their own fucking barn.
Yes.
You had them.
You had them.
So you would have won the goddamn thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my thought. So you were up 3-1 on the team that won it, and you should have won that series. Right. So that means you should have won the whole damn thing. That doesn't make me feel better. That makes me feel worse. Makes me feel 100 times worse.
Yes.
They should have won it.
Yes.
Fucking A.
I mean, if they lost to Toronto, if Toronto swept them the next round, I'd probably feel a little better because, boy, Toronto is a buzzsaw in Florida. We aren't as good as we thought we were and all that stuff.
Sure.
But for God's sakes, if Florida runs the table, goes all the way and wins it, for God's sakes, that makes it worse. I know Joe Haggerty put out that tweet, does it feel any better? No, it doesn't. It feels worse that they just pounded Toronto. You would have done that.
Yeah.
My goodness. No. Chirp 5, per a source, teams were interested in Linus Ullmark last offseason. Do the Bruins explore a trade this offseason?
I think they do explore it. I think they do. And I think it's primarily for salary cap relief. Mm-hmm. You get $5 million off the books. And maybe that allows you to re-sign Tyler Bertuzzi. And then you have you would have Swayman. Swayman was not as good as Allmark was, but you would expect Allmark probably to come back to earth a little bit next year because he had an otherworldly season this year in the regular season anyway. So you would expect him to come back to earth a little bit. And Swayman was very good. I mean, he wasn't great, but he was a top 10 goalie in the league during the regular season.
Yeah.
Can he sustain that with more playing time? We'll see. But him and Brandon Bussey combination, I think would be fine, and you would save a little money there, and be able to maybe sign some of your guys, give yourself a little cap relief, sign some guys to kind of fill out some of those spots that you got a bunch of guys leaving. So I think they should explore it, and his value will never be higher.
Well, this is a hard year right now to sign Swayman, even if it was a 1-year bridge deal. Like, you still got to give him $3 or $4 million. Like, it's a hard year to give that kind of money to anybody. Never mind us, the backup goalie.
Yeah, I mean, there was 2 other guys that signed similar situations to him that signed bridge deals. I believe one of them was Spencer Knight, and I'm not sure if the other one was Jake Ottinger or not, but they signed in the 3.5 to 4.5 range. So you're talking 3.5 to 4 million, $4.5 million for Swayman for 2 years. They were both 2-year deals. So you're talking, 2 times 8 probably. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's you've got to cut somewhere. So I think you have to be looking at Allmark. If you can get rid of, a Forbort and a Riley, and they'll save you some money. But if you want to keep some of those high-end guys like Bertuzzi, everybody seems to want to keep him. That's going to cost you, 6-7 probably, or 7 or more maybe even. So if you're looking at keeping him, you gotta make some moves cuts that are going to probably hurt you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to rely on some of this young talent.
Yeah, they're going to have to kind of infuse.
Yeah, I mean, they are, and I would explore. I mean, I think you have to explore. He's the one guy, Allmark, who has the most trade value. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, I don't. Yeah, you could trade Taylor Hall, but look what you got for Taylor Hall. Look what you gave up for Taylor Hall. Like, I don't think you're going to get a ton for him as much as you think.
No.
And then there's guys like Grizzlick. I mean, that's a draft pick. Forbort might be a draft pick. Riley's a buyout. Like, those are salary dumps. You're not getting a ton. If they're taking all the salary, you're not getting a ton in return. You're just not. So Allmark's the guy that gives you at least some assets. Maybe you can get back in the first or second round of this draft, which seems to be fairly deep, by trading Allmark, and then you go with Swayman, give him his 2 for 9, and just move on with that goalie tandem of him and Bussey. Like, I think that's your best bet. I don't remember the last time a Vezina Trophy winner was traded in the offseason. It would be rare. But I think it's the right time. He's 29. You go with the younger guy in Swayman. And the guy in Swayman, who both the last 2 years ended up being your goalie in the postseason at the end of the day.
Right.
Like, so that's the other thing. I mean,
was it
have the putzpah?
Was it Patty Waugh after with the whole thing with Montreal?
Colorado?
Yeah.
It might have
Montreal
been
to Colorado. That might have been it.
It might have been. It might have been him. Yeah. But I think that's the move that you need to make. I mean, that's $5 million off the books, and you could get potentially a pretty good asset in return.
Yeah.
Chirp 6. If Bruce Cassidy wins the cup, does it make the ending even worse?
I mean, I honestly don't think that the team would have been where they were at if Cassidy was there. Right. And it wouldn't have been the same team. So does it make it worse? I mean, does it sting a little bit? Yeah, because he was here and then he goes somewhere else and wins. But I really feel like it's more like good for him. He landed on his feet. He was a great coach. Like, we didn't really want to see him gone, but when you saw all the stuff coming out of the locker room after he left, like, it was time. Like we've talked about before. Like there's times where it's just like the message gets a little stale and it's time to move on to a new guy. And it was time. It was time to move on. And the fact that he landed on his feet and has them, in a conference final is, really good on Bruce. He's a great coach, and and we certainly wish him the best. I'll actually probably be pulling for Vegas.
Sure.
Of the teams left, like I would rather see them win than anyone else. So,
Sure.
I'll probably be pulling for them.
Well, I'd love to see Cassidy win. I mean, he
Yeah,
deserves it. He's a really good coach, and I think, if if anything, Cassidy's gonna love the shit out of it. I mean,
sure.
he's gonna go make $4.5 million or whatever he makes in Vegas,
Yeah,
after Boston, and then win the cup the very next year. It's like a Tom Brady to Tampa Bay situation.
sure.
Like, kind of disgruntled, kind of didn't love the way he was treated, didn't think it was warranted, and then goes to Vegas and takes a team that's not as talented as you are and wins the cup.
Yeah,
I mean, and blows through Edmonton, two of the best players in the world
yeah.
on the team. Like, that's pretty damn good. I mean, that's pretty damn good. So, especially if they beat Florida in the final, team
Yeah.
that you couldn't beat. So that's great. All right, Chirp 7. Will a Canadian team ever win a cup again? They haven't won it since 1993, the first season for Gary Bettman.
Yeah, everybody's has all these conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Like Bettman's trying to keep the cup out of Canada and all that. That's just
Right.
absolute
That's
baloney.
hodgepodge. He's not that
But
smart.
no, he isn't.
No,
But
no.
so I hope they don't. Honestly, just
Right.
because they're mad
Right.
about all this stuff. Like I don't want to see Montreal win it because I don't like Montreal at all. I don't want to see Toronto win it because their fan base and the media there is just bonkers. Like they're just so over the top. I just don't want. I want to see them just stay miserable.
Right.
And then Edmonton won their cups in the 80s with Gretzky. So I don't want to see them win it. I'd like to see Connor McDavid actually get traded somewhere else and then him win somewhere else. I think that'd be fantastic. He was traded somewhere else and then he wins, a bunch. So yeah, and Vancouver, burn your city to the ground. Like I don't want to see them win it, and Winnipeg is, who wants to see Winnipeg win it? And same with Calgary. So yeah, I hope the Canadian team never wins it ever again.
Yeah. Here's this question. Would you do a package involving McAvoy and Pastrnak for Draisaitl? Because they could need a defenseman. I mean, Darnell Nurse is their best, and that's not great.
Well, they just got
No, and they got Ekholm.
Ekholm, yeah.
Ekholm.
Would I do it for Draisaitl? Draisaitl kind of disappeared at the end of that series.
He did.
So I didn't love that. And how much of it is the McDavid effect? I wonder.
Right, true.
Because they get a bunch of
leaving the
people talk about Nugent Hopkins, and I was like, I don't know, man. He had 60 points on the power play or something like that.
Evan Bouchard had 18.
Yeah, I mean those guys. It's part of.
Yeah.
It's like the guys who played with Mario Lemieux, and you're like,
right. Yeah,
Rob
Brown.
It's like Rob Brown had 144 points playing with Mario Lemieux. It's like Brady Anderson's 52 home runs. It's like all 1 year.
And I would have got 70.
Yeah, I know. It's like it. So I worry about that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think I would rather have two really good players than Draisaitl, especially if I had to give up. I mean, I guess it would cut the cap down. The cap number down a little bit, but then you're looking for a number one defenseman. And I honestly think that, especially in the playoffs, I mean, and McAvoy didn't play well in the playoffs, but number one defenseman, you really need those come playoff time. It's really important. So I don't know. I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would, but I would consider it. But I think in the end, I don't think I would pull the trigger.
Yeah, I probably. It's just interesting that a center. I just think that Edmonton probably. I wonder if they try to, or if they move on from Draisaitl, like if they try to change the makeup of that team. I wonder if they continue to go on with him.
So I heard an interesting tweet today. Here's another hypothetical. Would you do this? Would you do Matthews and Marner from McDavid? If you were Toronto and Edmonton, would you swap those guys to change the makeup of your teams?
Only if I knew Matthews wouldn't stay. Like if Matthews wouldn't stay, it changes the dynamic of that. I wouldn't, because I think Matthews at 25 years old, I think Matthews is really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think he's getting a lot of bad rap there. I mean, I think there's some other guys in that core, like Marner, that, I'd move away from them. But Matthews is really good, and I just feel like Matthews can win a cup. McDavid still has not, and I would just I don't think I would trade Matthews. I think I would keep Matthews. I really do personally, but not if I thought that he was gone when his
Right.
contract is up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I'd say, yeah, sure, let's do that. But that's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one. I think I'm with you though, because I think Matthews is a more complete player, and
I think so too.
I think obviously McDavid's going to score goals and be dynamic in the playoffs, and he has been. But it hasn't gotten them the success that they want.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. But
Yeah.
I think both those guys are really good. I mean, maybe it's a change of scenery type situation where if you flop them around, but
Right.
I don't know what McDavid's personality is, but could he handle that kind of
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, John
media
Tavares
market
hasn't been great at it.
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
can he handle that media market in Toronto? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like he seems kind of like a quiet guy, and
Yeah.
they would probably eat him alive if he was, because he is the greatest player on the planet. If he goes there and they still don't win, like,
Right.
I mean, that would be difficult for him to probably deal with. So,
right.
I think I'm probably with you. I think I would probably just hold on to Matthews and
I think I would, but it is an interesting one, and I don't know if McDavid or Matthews want to stay in their respective places. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but
no, it's just a hypothetical. I heard
it's an interesting one.
Yeah,
I really, people might think I'm crazy, but I think I ride the next 8 years with Matthews over McDavid. I think I do. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy.
So you think do you think Matthews will win a cup before McDavid?
I think Matthews will win a cup before McDavid. I'm gonna say it right here. I think Matthews is gonna win a cup before McDavid. I really believe so. Yeah. All right, DraftKings Sportsbook, Boston's hometown sportsbook, is live right here in Massachusetts. Bet local on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings. To celebrate, all new customers will receive up to $200 in bonus bets when you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using code ITR. You can now bet local on moneyline spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbooks, DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with the code ITR to get up to $200 in bonus bets to use now that mobile sports betting is live in Massachusetts. That's code ITR only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
If you or a loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, call 800-327-5050 or visit helplinema.org to speak with a trained specialist, free and confidentially, 24/7, 21 plus, physically present in Mass. Eligibility restrictions apply, subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as free bets. Terms at DraftKings.com/MA.
All right, Beauties and Benders, and this week's Beauties. Number 3, Garnet Hathaway.
Gonna love you, eh? They're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
Hathaway with a one-handed stab in foul territory at Fenway.
Yeah, it was a nice grab by him.
It was a really nice grab, showing some nice mitts.
Think they'll try to sign him to like a veteran minimum, get him to stick around?
Yeah, I do, but I think someone out there will give him a little bit of a juicier situation.
A little more contract.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like a guy like Noah Lachari is making 2.5.
Yeah.
If I'm Garnet Hathaway, I'm trying to get 2.5. I'm trying to get Noah Lachari.
Right.
You know what I mean? And here's the thing about Hathaway, and I like Hathaway, and I thought it was a good move. I feel a little empty inside on Hathaway. I don't know if I got what I thought I'd get from him.
I agree with you. I did not get what I thought I would get from him. There were flashes of it, but I think part of it is the way the Bruins play. Mm-hmm. The way that Bruins play defensively is not conducive to his style of play as far as how they forecheck and so forth. Mm-hmm. So I think that part of it we were kind of got cheated out of that a little bit.
And they also, in the way they kind of cycle and stuff, when he gets in front of the net, he's an agitator. You know what I mean? He gets in front of the goalie and all that, and just didn't see a ton of it from him. And I think he only played. There was some nights when he played 8 or 9 minutes. Like it just. I don't know. I don't think I got what I thought I'd get from him fully. I mean, there were a couple of moments there where you're like, oh yeah, there's Hathaway, but not as much as I really thought. Of course, they get eliminated in the first round.
Yeah. So
It's
yeah,
not like he's showing his worth as he goes forward.
right.
I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really have but I mean, that should have been a series, you would think, that
Right.
was right up his alley.
Sure, with Bennett and
Yeah.
Kachuk and
But maybe, I mean, maybe they just didn't get on the ice as at the same time as much
Yeah.
as, with those guys,
Yeah.
as maybe, we would have liked them to kind of
Right.
mix things up and
Because
so forth.
I feel like the Merlot line in 11 was a lot more noticeable. They played a lot more. I just
Yeah.
feel like they did. Well, they obviously, showed their worth a lot more. Like I just thought that the fourth line for the Bruins just didn't play a ton, and like you said, the way they play, and it didn't really give him his agitator, his time to be that kind of guy. When I thought that Florida had some guys who kind of did that, and
Mhm.
and he was one guy who could, and I don't think he was given the opportunity. I think, yeah, I'd like to have him back on a minimum or like a $1 million or whatever. I just think that someone's going to show him some little bit more value, I think, and probably offer him a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think he might even be looking for like a little bit of an increased role, like maybe a third line role
Sure.
instead of a fourth line with
Right.
some more playing time and that kind of
Right.
stuff promised to him.
Right, and they just, and first of all, their history, they don't give fourth liners more like the second go around. They don't.
Right.
They let them go all
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
all the time. So they like to keep that under $2 million, that player, first of all, and then secondly, like you said, I think they just don't have the luxury to pay guys down. They have to use Beecher and McLaughlin
Yeah.
and Lauko and Steen. They have to use those guys next year.
Yeah.
And I don't think Hathaway. I just don't think they have enough leeway to give him money to stay there. It's got to be a younger group.
Mhm.
All right, beauty number 2, Jack Eichel.
Gonna love you, eh? They're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
Eichel took a lot of heat from Vegas fans, of course, Buffalo fans in the past, and also Cassidy, pushed him a little bit, and I thought that was like oil and water to begin with. But Eichel is pulled through, and they're going to the Western Conference Finals, and it's good for I feel good for Jack because he's a great player, and he was in a bad situation in Buffalo, and he comes to Vegas. There's some heat on him right away. There's a lot of narratives about him, but Eichel, he's coming through, and he has a chance to win a cup.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he was in some bad situations. He kind of was at odds with Buffalo management about how they wanted to handle his injury. And he did what he thought was best for him in his career. And he ends up coming out looking pretty good in this. I think, the surgery seemed to go pretty well. He seems to be back in form and playing well. And, his team's going to the conference finals and, Buffalo's golfing. So
Yeah, good for him.
good for him.
Yeah, great golfers at Sabres.
Yeah.
And then beauty number 1, Jonathan Marchessault.
Jonathan.
Gonna love you, eh? They're gonna be loving you from dawn until dusk.
Marshy, as they call him in Vegas. I don't know how I feel about that, but
I hate it.
natural hat trick to send Vegas to the conference final. Marchessault, who's been there from the get-go, I believe, right, for Vegas?
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a really good player for the Knights from the beginning.
Yeah, he had 28 goals in the regular season, and then a natural hat trick in what was it, Game 6, right? Game 6. Game 6 to send his team to the conference finals in Edmonton. So a really big game for him, and he's been really good for them, since the beginning with Riley Smith and William Karlsson early on. So he's having a good year and showed up at the right time for Vegas.
No doubt.
And now we'll move on to the Benders, and these are things that we're not really fans of. And number 3 is pollen.
I'll tell you what. I don't know what happened or what global warming or climate change or any of that stuff. I don't get it, but I do get this. The pollen's the worst it's ever fucking been.
Yeah.
My eyes, I want to take them out and wash them off and put them back in every 10 minutes.
I mean, driving around in your car, is there anything worse than you gotta put the windshield wipers on and use the wiper fluid, and then you get somewhere, you go inside for 5 minutes, you come back out and your car looks like it fucking snowed. It's covered.
Green.
Yeah. I was outside grilling tonight. I must have sneezed 6 times out there, and I was out there for 10 minutes cooking chicken.
It's bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and those, I guess it's those Canadian wildfires, and I think they're pissed that they haven't won the cup in 30 years, so they're burning the shit down. So I think that those wildfires are bringing that haziness, and that shit in there. So it's worse this year because it is worse. I mean, it is worse. Bad.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Yeah, the allergy season is in full blast right now in the Northeast. Loving the hell out of that. All right. My number 2, Bender, is excuses.
Bender.
Can people stop with this? All the teams, Toronto's complaining about, this guy got a 3-game suspension, they did it to my guy and didn't get any games, or this ref, they don't want Canadian teams to win. Bettman doesn't want Canadian teams to win. It's everything else except for the management and the players' fault. It was like that around here too. Yeah, the Bruins Florida's getting away with all this stuff, and everybody cries about penalties. The officiating, folks, listen, the officiating stinks throughout the entire league. No one's picking on just your team.
Nope.
They stink globally, all of them.
Yep.
They stink equally for everyone. Right. No one is trying to make your team lose. They just stink at their jobs. Yep. They're not good at it, and it affects everyone.
Conspiracy theories are the most ignorant thing in the world. Like, it's not a conspiracy against your shitty team.
Yeah.
That they're gonna. It's just not. You're right. It's every team, every fan out there is my team always gets screwed by the refs.
Yeah.
My team. And here's the other thing I love. The Bruins get all the calls. I love that one from like Toronto fans and all these other fans. Like, the Bruins get all the. I'm telling you, I've been watching the Bruins a long time.
Yeah.
Like my whole life.
Yeah.
They don't get all the calls.
They don't.
Confirmed.
Confirmed. I mean, we want to go back to some that really matter. You could talk about the Achari trip in the finals, or you could talk about the puck going out of play, and then the other team scores a goal to win the game.
Yes.
Out of play. So you could in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
Out of play. You could talk all you want about whether the Bruins get calls or your team doesn't get calls, but it's all comes down to excuses. That's not the reason the Bruins lost the cup in 19. It's because they couldn't handle St. Louis's physicality and forecheck, and then they played bad, or let in soft goals, or didn't score when they had the opportunity to. It just comes down to the other team played better than you. Bennington played better in that final, as much as it kills me to say, than Rask did. Like, those things happen. Like, the other team sometimes plays better than you. Florida played better than Boston. That's why they won. Boston turned the puck over, but Florida had a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
so, it's not everyone's fault. You can't make excuses. Your team didn't play well. That's what it comes down to in the end.
In the end, that's it. You're right.
All right. And number 1 is individual awards.
Bender.
No one gives a flying fuck. No one cares. Nobody cares.
I don't understand this about fans. Like, they care so much about some guy winning some. It's not, hey, Bergeron wins his 6th Selke. Great. Happy for him for like a half a second. I don't care. I mean, what do you care about about guys winning individual awards? All they care about is getting their bonus money. Like, who cares about an individual getting any type of award? It's the same thing about, like, the All-Star game. If your guy hits a home run or scores a goal, like, who cares? I don't care. What I want is my team to win. That's it.
That's what it comes down to for me. Is I want my team to win. I don't care if Pasternak's a finalist for the Hart Trophy. He's not going to win it. I don't care about that. I want them to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, would McDavid trade all his Hart Trophies for Stanley Cups? Probably would. So the individual awards don't matter. people. They don't matter. It's nice. It's in off season. You get to clap for the guy for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Who gives a? And then Milli Vanilli comes on and plays a concert in Canada. It's great.
Right.
But no one gives a rat's ass. No one cares at
The
all.
Bruins could win 4 or 5 individual awards this year. I bet every one of them would give it back to at least get to the second round.
They would. I mean,
for
if
God's sakes.
yeah, I mean, if I'm, somebody that's won like Karl Malone or somebody like that's won all these individual awards, and he's never won a title. Would he trade all of them for a title? Yes, he would.
Yes,
would Dan Marino trade all his shit for a Super Bowl trophy? You sure would.
Yeah.
So the individual awards, stop with it. Stop with it. I hate it.
How
I hate
do
it.
you feel about this narrative I heard recently that Canadian players, for the most part, care more about winning the cup than the American players? Did you hear this one?
I didn't hear that, and
This is a Canadian. It's a Canadian sport, a Canadian, Canadian cup, whatever. And that the reason why, that the Bruins had too many American players who really, at the end of the day, won't live and die by winning the cup, and Canadian players care more about the cup than either Americans or players from other countries who didn't grow up with, let's win the Stanley Cup.
I don't buy that at all.
I mean, I don't either. Like, it got me to thinking, like, there's someone like Dmitry Orlov. Like, did he grow up thinking, let's win the Stanley Cup? Probably not. But at some point, I think, that comes into play. Like, this is the biggest championship in hockey. I mean, it has to be. It's better than the KHL championship. Like, it's got to be the best in hockey. So
yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to be at the pinnacle of hockey by winning the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I think you would be.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's.
just think it was a terrible take that I
Yeah.
saw on Twitter, which I should stop looking at Twitter. But that's my first mistake. But people were saying kind of that, Canadian players want it more.
That's who said that. Who said that? A fucking Canadian guy. That's who said it.
And they haven't won the cup in 30 years. Yeah.
It's our game, and we care more about it than you do. So yeah. Go to hell, buddy.
Yeah. And I also heard we should do social media hot takes by Bruins fans. Here's another one. So I saw on Facebook, some Facebook group, a guy says that what did he say? There was it too many college college defensemen. Yeah, too many college defensemen. Yeah, McAvoy, Grizzlick. Too many guys who played college
Clifton,
hockey.
yeah.
Carlo. Yeah, too many guys who played college hockey on the defense. That caused them to lose. Too many college players.
Right, because Cale Makar, who went to UMass and was Conn Smythe winner.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
Yeah, he's
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want any
Brian
of those
Leach,
guys.
one of the best defensemen of all time, went to BC. He's awful.
No,
Adam Fox went to Harvard. He's terrible. No one wants him.
Yeah.
Norris Trophy winner. He's awful.
I got news for you. There's more good college players than there were 30, 40 years ago.
Absolutely.
If you went to college, you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Like, if you went and played in college, you probably wouldn't get a shot in the NHL back in the day.
Yeah.
Now, great players spend a year or two in college.
Sure they do.
They McAvoy and all these guys. So
yeah, Jack Eichel, all
like
Korea.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few decent ones.
Yeah.
That's Adam Oates. Yeah, he's terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, so I love that take too, but I'm gonna have to scour the internets, the webs.
Yeah, that'll be it. We should do a whole off-season episode on that.
Take.
Yeah, hot takes. Yeah, yes. I love it.
Hey, Bedard Tankapalooza winner. We finally got a winner. We tracked this for weeks, and the winner of Bedard Tankapalooza, the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, and this was rigged according to everyone too.
Right, there's another conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
the lotteries.
Yeah. It's rigged.
Yeah.
To get to Bedard to an original 6 team in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Coming off some scandalous things happening there with So I gotta sweep that under the rug and let's sell some tickets, which they did. They sold like 2.3 million tickets, I think, or something like that, in the first day or whatever since after he got drafted. So it looks like the Chicago fans will be back in the building come next year, and that'll be an exciting.
You know what's hilarious is all the people out there, media and people who are trying to come up with these trade scenarios where they would trade it. You're not going to trade the first pick of the draft when you sold 2.3 million tickets. Like, you're not going to trade the guy. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, didn't you see? It was Kevin Paul Dupont, I think, right?
He did. Yeah, but the Bruins.
He said McAvoy, Pasternak, Swayman, and someone else.
And someone else, or a first in 2020.
Oh, a first and someone else for Bedard.
Yeah.
Chicago, they tanked on purpose.
They did
to get this guy. Why on earth would they trade him to anyone?
Why would
for
they do
any
that?
Reason?
For all those guys who already make big money, like they got a guy under their control for however long, making peanuts.
Right, 3 years for 3-year entry level deal. Making
he's gonna play game one. He's gonna be there. So why would they do that? Like, they're not gonna do that. And
they wouldn't even. I don't think they would even trade him for McDavid. Do you?
I don't think so.
Because McDavid makes what, $14 million a year or 13 and a half?
They're not gonna go get a guy that makes all this money and only has a little bit of term left. You gotta pay him again more than he did. Like, you're not gonna get Matthews. There was another one, Matthews. Let's get Matthews for him or whatever. Like, there's just no way. I mean, by all accounts, this guy is another franchise generational talent.
Yeah.
Like, so you got him for short money for 3 years, and he's the face of the thing, and you just sold all these tickets, and then you're gonna trade him for Taylor Hall.
I think that would be hilarious if Chicago was like, Chicago, you're on the clock.
Like the Chicago move. Like,
Chicago makes a trade with the Arizona Coyotes for Clayton Keller, and the people in Chicago would absolutely riot.
God.
They would riot.
That would be the last straw of a really tumultuous.
Oh yeah, they would absolutely riot. Oh my God, it would be hilarious. I kind of hope it happens.
Great theater. Yeah, it'd be great.
I kind of hope it happens.
You're there draft night and they're like, a trade. There's been a trade. Oh my God, I would scream out loud.
Oh my God,
jump up and down.
We would have to do a Benders live immediately. We would be live with immediate reaction. Bedard is traded by Chicago for 4 firsts and a bag of pucks.
Seattle for Matty Beniers and Jordan Eberle.
Yanni Gord. Seattle trades its entire franchise to the Seattle Blackhawks for Connor Bedard.
Wow. Hey, the calendar for Bruins offseason. How about this? June 28, 29 is when Connor Bedard will be traded at the NHL draft. July 1st, free agency begins. July 3rd through the 7th was announced today, development camp, rookie development camp. September 13th to 18th will be rookie camp. And then September 20, the training camp opens. So we are at 4 solid months until the training camp opens up for the Boston Bruins with what should be a vastly different roster.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason for sure. Lots of things to do, lots of moves to make, lots of cap space to clear. So the Bruins are going to have a busy offseason, we think, and we'll be there with you every step of the way.
What's a move that might be under the radar that they may make, you think?
An under the radar move?
Like something that's not really talked about right now, but you think, this is kind of going out on a limb. This could happen.
This could happen. I think there is a pretty good chance. I mean, we've kind of hit on a lot of it, but I think there's a pretty good chance that Grzelcyk is traded. I think I think Forbort will probably get traded. I think I don't know. I mean, the Allmark thing isn't under the radar. We talked about it quite a bit, but I really think they'll explore that to try to get under the cap. I'm gonna say that they bring Bertuzzi back.
Okay. So you got Bertuzzi back. Okay.
Bertuzzi back, and I think Grzelcyk probably is a cap casualty.
Do you think they have the conversation with Marchand?
I think they will have a conversation with Marchand. I honestly think, and I've said this before, I think he's done when his contract is up in 2 years.
2 years. Yep.
So whether they can
let's say Bergeron doesn't come back, Krejci doesn't come back, they really aren't a cup contender. I mean, they might be a playoff team, not a cup contender. Do you think he takes? Do you think they ask him, and do you think he takes the opportunity to say, you know what? Yeah, send me to Edmonton. You know.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't know if I don't think they would have the conversation with him first of all, because I don't think they would have it with Bergeron. I think Marchand's number is probably going to go up to the rafters, and I think he wants to, like Bergeron, end his career as a Bruin.
You don't see like a Marchand Nugent Hopkins kind of swap or something.
No,
like that?
I think if anything, you'll see him end up with the captaincy. I think that's what you'll see.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they'll give him the captaincy.
I think so. I think it'll be him.
Events that is in his career.
I think he will be the captain of the Bruins if Bergeron is done. Yep. I think he'll be the captain, and Pasternak and McAvoy will be assistants. Maybe throw Carlo in there too as an alternate captain. But yeah, he'll be the captain of the Bruins if Bergeron doesn't come back.
Here's a guy to keep an eye on for me, Jake DeBrusk. I'm keeping an eye on him just because I think he has 1 year left.
Yep,
and then
he does.
He's coming into, by that time 27 years old or whatever. He's taken a little bit less or whatever, kind of bridgy deals. Mm-hmm. He's going to be looking for his sweet spot 5-year deal. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be looking for his, like, this is the deal that I have to do in my prime. So I wonder if they see what they could get for him, thinking that they may not be able to re-sign him.
That's a pretty good one, because I think that definitely could be, that could be something there, because I think they will have trouble re-signing him.
Right. So you could see it could be, maybe it's all Mark DeBrusk, and see what you could get. You might get a good amount for that.
Yeah, I mean, if you went to Edmonton and said, we'll give you Jake DeBrusk and Linus Ullmark for Nugent Hopkins, mm-hmm. I mean, that could potentially happen.
Yeah.
And you have your center,
right?
And they have, a scoring winger to go with,
right?
Either Draisaitl or McDavid, and a goalie.
Right. And thinking that Lysell, maybe not next year, but soon, Lysell could be a DeBrusk. He could be that type of guy. So,
maybe it's Merkulov that you plug in there,
right,
as he gets used to playing, in the NHL.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
That is interesting. I like that one. That's a good one.
All right, go to InsideTheRink.com for Bruins Benders merchandise. Follow us at Bruins Benders on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to the Inside the Rink YouTube page. See our content there. Please rate and review on Apple, and subscribe and follow on the podcast platforms. Sign up for ESPN Plus at InsideTheRink.com/ESPN, and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code ITR. We'll be back next week with Maine Mariners coach Terrence Wallen making a return visit. Until then, thanks for listening, and go Bruins.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Whoa, Black Betty, bam, lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, bam, lamb. Black Betty had a child.